Welcome to our part two because I had technical difficulties on that last one, and we were unable to record. So you all get a chance to have it live once again. Woohoo! And this time we are recording. I see it up in the corner of the screen, so we should be good. Teachers, I also want to draw your attention over to the chat box. I have dropped a link to the Embryology website in the chat box, and I also dropped a file in the chat box. I'll share my screen with you in just a second, right before we candle the eggs, showing you what the air ring is doing inside of your egg. Okay, so that is the file that I dropped in there for you. So why don't I share screen with you now? So that way you can see that. All right, so here is, can everybody see the egg? All right, I'm hoping you guys can see the egg. I don't hear anything, but this file is in the chat box, so you can download that and save that to show you how the inside of your egg is going to change now that your chick is 13 days into development. So you have the 7th day, you see how small that air pocket was right there. And then the 14th day, it has gotten larger. That's that red banded area. It has increased all the way to this line here. And then by the 18th day, it will be this big inside for your baby chick. So that means all this space over here, your egg white is slowly disappearing. It is losing moisture, which is how the air cell is able to grow as the moisture is disappearing inside of the egg, and your baby chick is going to take up this space. So it is going to turn itself right side up so that his head will be on this end of the egg, and using their egg tooth that they have when they hatch, they'll be able to puncture this pocket, and this is where they will take their first breath before cracking through the shell up here, okay, at this end of the egg, which is why it's important that the wide end of the egg is facing up. If you have an incubator with an egg turner in it that sets your eggs so that it's end to end, if it's rolling side to side, then you don't have to worry about that. Just make sure you have it oriented correctly inside of your incubator. Today, once again, I have Miss Tina in our office who is going to help me out here with the candling of the eggs. Now, if you guys are ready, let's go ahead and start that process. So if you have your chick calendar, okay, that you should have with your eggs, we know that today is March 15th, the Ides of March, and it is also the first day of our 4-H camp registration and enrollment. So it says turn at least one time today, maintain 60% humidity, and this is day 13. So on day 13, the appearance of scales are on the legs of our baby chick. Its comb and its wattles are just now starting to be present. So we really have a baby chick forming in, so there's day 12. Here is day 13 right here on our calendar for chick embryo development. And you can find these calendars, teachers, on the website link that I put in the chat box, but you all should have that already, but just for those latecomers, you may not have access to it in the chat box yet. So I just dropped it in there again, so that way you can pull that up for your kids afterwards and as you are candling. Are you all ready? Let's see what's going on. So at this point, I am going to switch my camera over to the egg camera. So go up to the little blue box and click on the egg camera, and you're going to choose and select pin. So I have now pinned our camera there. All right, and I'm going to put on my glove. Now remember, every time you handle your eggs, you need to wear either a glove or always start with clean hands, okay? Always start with clean hands. Super, super important. So Miss Tina is going to grab me an egg out of the incubator. Thank you. And I'm going to remove that, and we're going to place the egg over our candler. And so you can see the eye at the bottom down there. He's moving around. So you see his little eye right there? There it is. And he's moving around in there. So we have good things happening inside of that egg there. Woohoo! So there he is. He's moving. He's probably saying, who's shining this bright light on me? There we go. So let's see what our air pocket is. Let's see, there's our air cell on the wide end of the egg. So this egg came out of our incubator that has some top to bottom. So you see the air cell is all the way at the top. Okay. And look, he's really wanting you to see him. There's his eye right there, that black dot. He's moving around. We can't see very much inside to see the total shape of his body in this one. Okay. And the older they get, the more opaque this egg will get, and we won't be able to see through it. All right. Okay. So we're going to put him back in there. We don't want to leave our eggs out too long as we are candling, because we don't want the temperature to drop and affect the egg. Okay. And we have some questions from our last Zoom that I'm going to go over with you after we do some candling. So here is egg number 2. Ooh, there, look at that. We've got another eye. That black dot that you see inside the egg is the chick's eye. Okay, let's see. Gotta get it right over the light. There we go. And you see the blood vessels. Let me see if I turn it correctly. That are also inside of there. Look, there he is. He's sitting right there. You can kind of see him. You see him moving? There he goes. He's jumping. He's moving all around in there. Now the white dots that you see on that egg is showing you the pores of the egg. So remember I told you the egg is porous, so it absorbs moisture, and it'll also absorb bacteria and things as well. So that's why you always want to handle your eggs with very clean hands. So we don't want anything to get into an egg and damage our young embryo. You see the air pocket on this end right here, okay? It's right like, oh, he's been really good. Look at that. Let's turn him a little bit more. So you can see the shape of the sac is still floating in there. There he is again. All right. Good job. Let's do one more. So we know that we have 2. I have, how many eggs do I have here? 6? I might have 11 or 10 eggs here. So I'm working with 2 different incubators to candle or to experiment with. Let's see what's happening inside this one. So you can see the those vein lines. That's what that line is right there. That is the webbing. That is part of the system that is supporting our baby chick. Inside the egg, you see the baby chick inside moving around, those dark marks in there. So our baby chick is alive and well. Doing some cartwheels and flips in there. Let's rotate it a little bit. And you see this end right here is our narrow end, and the wide end is this end right here. So let's turn it around. Let's see if we can see that air cell in there. Yeah. So there's our air cell right here. This one is a little more opaque, so it's a little harder to see what's happening inside of there. So let's turn it around a little bit. There we go. Look at the, look. Oh, let's see if we can get another good one. So you can see how that embryonic sac in there is surrounding our baby chick, who is now at the bottom. So he's down here. And all of those blood vessels and things are helping to keep our baby chick alive. And eventually it's going to absorb all of the rest of the egg yolk that's in there. There he is. Uh-oh. Let me get it back over the light. Sorry, y'all. Operating blind here. There he is at the bottom. That's a good shot right there. And you can see his eye is right here at my finger. So we can get a good view of his body running away from the light. So it's really good to see those blood vessels in there for you all. There he is. He's moving and grooving. He's like, okay, too much light. All right, I'm gonna hand that back over to Miss Tina, and I'm going to take my glove off, and I am going to unpin my egg camera. There we go. And now you can put me back in the center if you like. There we go. All right, good deal. I'm going to open up my chat box. There we go. So if you all have any questions about candling, or if you have any questions about what your baby chick is experiencing inside of your egg, please feel free to write those questions in the chat box. So I'm going to answer some questions that came in and ones that we answered last Zoom. So it says, what happens to the ones who don't hatch? So there's always a possibility that some of the eggs that we put in our incubators won't hatch. And that's kind of just nature and being nature, really. And we don't know if these are extremely highly viable, every single egg. So I want you to know that we have 1,140 eggs in and around the city of Virginia Beach in an incubator, 1,140 eggs. So that is a lot of eggs. And so when you're producing eggs at such a high rate, not all of them will develop and hatch. And sometimes they will surprise you. So candling gives you an idea of how many eggs you have that have life brewing inside of them. So there are a couple of things that we're going to talk about that I want you to know, so that way you don't have eggs exploding in your incubator if in fact there is no life happening inside of them. Okay, does candling hurt the chick? Candling does not hurt the chick. It gives us an opportunity to see if there's life growing inside of there. However, you know, when you're in the dark and you live in the dark and then somebody suddenly shines a very bright light in your face, it's like, oh, wait, I don't want that. Stop. And so they kind of have that reaction as they move around to try to get away from the light, because remember, their eyelids are just now forming. So anything bright we shine in there is piercing and going right in them. So you don't want to do it for an extended amount of time. Okay, you don't want to keep your eggs out longer than 2 or 3 minutes, because number one, you're changing the humidity, you're changing the temperature, and the more you handle your eggs, the more likely they will catch a bacteria, or, you know, there's just an increased opportunity for injury. Even dropping the egg could happen too. So you want to reduce any risk that could happen. Why don't they like the light? Well, I think I just answered that. You know, when you're in the dark and bright light shines in your face, you have that same reaction too. So they live in a dark environment, just like people do inside of their moms. You know, when we're being born, it's all dark in there. And then when we come out into the light, we're like, oh, what is this? And so these baby chicks are going to be the same way. So someone said they have a small crack in one of their eggs. They can see veins inside, but they cannot see a larger spot, like that big black eye and the dot in the shape of the body. And they asked, do you think it will hatch if you still see veins? My answer is no, I do not. If your egg is in fact cracked, take the egg out of the incubator and dispose of it. Put it in a couple of plastic bags so it can't break, and dispose of that egg. And here's why. If there is a crack in the egg, then it is absorbing everything, bacteria and all of that. And think of an egg as a safe, delivery system. You have a crack in that delivery system, kind of like a damaged box when, Amazon or UPS drops it off to you. And so you're worried that the contents inside could also be damaged or broken. And that's probably what's going on with your egg. And if there's no development, the longer it stays in the heat and humidity, it will begin to decay and rot. And at some point, it could explode inside of your incubator. You do not want that to happen, because then all the bacteria and the grossness from that decaying egg will get all over the other eggs. And remember what I told you, they're porous. So it can absorb all of that and affect all of your other eggs. So we don't want that to happen. So take it out, go ahead and remove it. Now, if you have an egg you're candling and you're having a hard time finding anything inside the egg, if they look like ours, they might be a little darker, just depending on how quickly and how well the eggs are doing in your incubator. It may be hard to see in there. And that just means that your chick is really developing quickly and it's gotten a little larger, so you're not going to be able to see all the way through it. It doesn't mean there's nothing happening in there, okay? So if the egg is intact and you see things, leave it alone, and you might just have a few surprises that you didn't anticipate. And I know that happened to me last year. I candled a couple I couldn't tell, and I had 12 eggs here, and 8 of them ended up hatching. So I was only anticipating 5. So you might have a few surprises. All right, next question. My class wants to know, is there any way to tell if a chick is a boy or a girl? Yes, it is. And boy chicks are called roosters, and the girl chicks are called hens. So when they are born, after they are born and they dry off, you'll be able to look at their wing feathers and the pattern on their wing feathers to see if it is a rooster or a hen. And if you go to the link on the Google site that I have put up for you with the resources for embryology, if you scroll to the bottom of the page, one of our 4-H agents from Dinwiddie has a video there showing you how to look at the feathers to see if they are roosters or hens. So you can try that after your chicks dry off, and then you can tell me how many roosters you counted and how many hens you counted. There's another way of doing it, but it's really gross. And I'll tell you anyway, because I love gross science, and I know you love gross science too. It is the vent hole test. And what happens is you have to pick the baby chick up, and their vent hole basically is where the poop comes out. And if you turn them up and you blow on their vent hole, I can't remember what happens, but it's the reaction that you get that will tell you if it's a rooster or a hen. Personally, I'm not going to blow air on their vent hole, because if poop comes out, I'm going to be grossed out. So I don't do it. I look at the wing test. I love gross science. Here we go. All right. Next question. Do we know what type of chickens we have? Yes, we have a chicken called a DeKalb white. And so these are white chickens. They're relatively small in size, actually, and they have a cute fan tail, and they're really good egg layers, super good egg layers. And so I'm gonna see if I can pull up a picture for you, and I will show you a picture of what a DeKalb white looks like. And this is also on our the website, with a bunch of other embryology resources for you all. There's even, I think, a Jeopardy game I put up there that tests your knowledge of different chicken breeds and whatnot. So let's type in DeKalb white, see if we get, and look at that, it did not type in. So I'm gonna scroll down on our page. There we go. So I'm going to share my screen with you again so you can see the DeKalb white. There we go. So here is our DeKalb White. This is our breed. So DeKalb White chickens are very efficient egg layers, and they are capable of laying up to 500 eggs in 100 weeks. That's a lot of eggs. 500 eggs in 100 weeks. Hey, teachers, that's a good math problem to get the kids to figure out how many eggs this particular chicken would be laying in just 1 week in order to get 500 eggs in 100 weeks. Yes. And so if you want to know more about the DeKalb White and this is the Google site page, just click on this link and it should take you to more information about the DeKalb White. Here we go. They call it pure white magic. You see it's got a red comb that flips over, and this wattle is here, its beak, and you see how prominent that eye is, so you can imagine that's why you can really see it in your egg. And so there's the body, you see the fantail right here. So all of that information is for you on the website. It's right there. All right. Do we need to take the egg turner out once one has hatched? You want to remove your egg turner before your eggs begin hatching. So if you are using your calendar that you have, your chick calendar, it tells you on March 20th, which is Monday, do not turn the eggs. Take the egg turner out on Monday. The only reason you have that egg turner in there is to turn your eggs so that the chick does not stick to the side and will develop naturally and normally as it should. So by March 20th, the chick is already positioned in the egg, so you no longer need to turn the egg. So carefully remove all the eggs from the egg turner, take your egg turner out, and lay your eggs on the bottom of your crate. Okay, so on the bottom of your incubator, sorry, the bottom of the incubator, you should have a metal grate is down there, and it is fine to lay your eggs on there on the side. And as they hatch, they will have a solid surface to hatch on. If you don't, and they hatch on the egg turner, they're going to get caught and trapped in between the turning mechanism. So please take the egg turner out of there. Do you recommend putting cheesecloth under the eggs before hatching? Yes, you can. Just make sure your cheesecloth is sterile and it isn't something that's been left over from Halloween craft projects and things of that nature. What temp is the incubator? So your incubator right now should be at 99.5, no more than 100. Okay, and no less than 99, and you want to maintain that temperature all throughout your incubation. However, I do want you to notice that on March 20th, you also want to increase the humidity from 6 to 65, or between 65 and 70%. Sorry, let me turn the ringer off on my phone. I didn't mean for that to be so loud. All right. And that's because you need that humidity to help keep the chicks from drying out on the inside of the egg. Because again, remember, there's a membrane inside of that. If you think back to when we dissected that first egg, that membrane that's just underneath of the shell will dry out and it'll become like shrink wrap. And we don't want it to squeeze our chick and suffocate our chick. So keep the humidity up. And you increase the humidity by increasing the surface area of water. It's not how deep the water is, but how wide of an area the water covers that increases the humidity. So you can put an extra dish of water. They recommend taking a sterile sponge and getting it soaking wet and sitting it in the corners of your incubator to help increase the humidity as one way of doing it. But you really have to find what way is going to work best for the type of incubator that you have. Most of your incubators have 2 trays under the bottom that tells you fill here during normal, and then on day 18, fill the second tray, because that gives you more surface area and will automatically increase the humidity in your incubator. Okay. Yes, if your humidity is only 55%, even after adding all the water, let it ride. But just know that on day 18, which is on next Monday, you might need to add sponges, sopping wet sponges in there to increase the humidity in your incubator. Okay. All right, so I have one more question that was submitted before our Zoom, and it says, the calendar says to candle 5 to 6 eggs, and that is safe because you're doing it as a ratio and you're making a guess, all right, or prediction. Something you read said that if there is one unviable egg, which means the egg is not developing into a baby chick, that it could explode or erupt, and then the bacteria from it would contaminate the rest. So we were wondering, do we need to candle all the eggs to make sure they all look living? One of the eggs we got had lines on it, and I worry if it would make it. So yes, if you're worried about any egg that looks a little funny on the outside or anything, go ahead and candle it and see what's happening inside. If there's good life happening, leave it alone. It'll be good to go. But if you do see that one is visibly cracked, you want to pull that one out of there. Okay, and yes, an unviable egg that is not developing into an embryo, there's no life inside, but whatever tissue started to develop and then for whatever reason stopped, that is going to start to rot inside of that egg. So if you have an egg that you can see all the way clear through it and there's nothing going on in there, go ahead and take that egg out. You don't want any ruptured or exploding eggs in your incubator because it's going to smell bad. All right, so let's see what questions you all have asked. From Miss Betsy. My kids are concerned because when we candled, we only saw a couple chicks developing in our eggs. Most of them we couldn't see any growth. I assume there isn't any actions we should take other than wait and hope we get some unexpected chicks. That is definitely my suggestion. Sometimes surprises happen, and sometimes they hide really well. You just never know. And without me actually seeing it, it'll be hard for me to tell you yay or nay as to whether or not there's life inside of it. But as long as the outside of the egg does not have any visible cracks in it, you should be okay as far as your egg not rupturing. Should we take the egg turner out Monday morning or on Sunday if we are able to get into our buildings? You'll be fine for taking it out on Monday morning. So if you look at your chick calendar on Sunday, March 19th, it says turn your eggs 3 times per day for the very last time. So by the time you get to school on Monday morning, it is fine to wait until you have a chance on Monday to take your eggs out and take the egg turner out of your incubator. Okay, because they do still need to be turned on Sunday. So you don't have to disrupt your Sunday by running into school to do that. It'll be fine to do once you get there Monday morning. Okay, really good questions. Are there any other questions? All right, well, there is something I'm going to bring up because on your chick calendar, I know today is March 15th, it says prepare your brooder box. And so that is something that you need to start thinking about if you don't have an idea or a plan in place for what you're going to keep your baby chicks in once they hatch. And so depending on how many you hatch, then you can adjust your brooder box to according to the size or the number of chicks that you have. And so you can choose a large cardboard box to put them in. Oh, look, it's clear. There we go. My background filter is making this weird. So here's a plastic bin that I have. So you all were given a few pine shavings to go inside. So you can line your plastic box with newspaper to give it a nice solid surface. And then you can actually use shredded paper as well. So if you don't have any sensitive documents that have been in your shredder, you can put your newspaper in the bottom, put some shredded paper on top of that, and then put your wood chips on top of that. Your baby chicks will be with you for about a full week, school week with you before you return them to me. So you'll have an opportunity to make sure they have water, make sure they have food as well, especially by day 2. So they won't eat or drink as soon as they hatch because they absorb the last bit of egg yolk inside of the egg, and that is what is feeding them until they dry off and acclimate themselves to being outside of the egg. So you want to have safe, clean water for them. You might, I've seen people put like river rocks in there because the baby chicks will fall asleep everywhere. And you don't want them teeter-tottering and falling over into the water. But I'll set up a Zoom next week and talk about your brooder box and safe ways to put your food and your water in there to keep the chicks safe. All right, so we have a question. Oh, we've got lots of questions in the Q&A. All right, let's see. Question number one, how many eggs have you given out to classes? So it depends on the classes as far as how many eggs each one received. But we do have 36 locations throughout the city that are participating in our embryology project, and we have 97 teachers who are dispersed amongst those 36 locations throughout the city that is participating in the embryology project. Why do we do this project? Well, we do this project, number one, because it is a great way to understand the life cycle of an animal. And you get to see that develop so wonderfully well when we candle an egg. So you can see all the different stages and phases of development. And it perfectly goes along with your third grade SOLs for the life cycle. And after your chicken, your baby chick hatches, you can also look at the changes it's going through and how a living organism changes over time. It also teaches you, students, empathy and care for life as that baby chick is newly developed and newly hatched. It is depending on you to take care of it. So you have to be gentle with it. You have to understand what its needs are, and you have to be able to provide for those needs while it is still a baby and needs to be taken care of. And so understanding what living organisms need in order to survive is very important. And you have to protect life. And that includes how you treat each other in your classrooms. So if you wouldn't want someone to behave that way for a new baby chick, then treat each other that way, because technically y'all are still babies too. You're your mama's babies and your daddy's babies and your grandma's baby. So, you guys are not adults. You're like baby chicks. So you should handle with care each other as well, each other's feelings, each other's emotions, and understand what each one of you needs to be healthy and happy every day. And that means mentally, physically, and emotionally. Everybody has a bad day. So if we can all have a bit of understanding, then hey, we could care for each other the way you guys are going to have to care for these cute little fluffy baby chicks. Okay, I love that question. Have we ever had twins? No, I have never hatched twins out of one egg before, but I really hope one day it'll happen. What will we do with 1,100 chicks? Well, we had to secure a fourth farm to take the chicks just in case we have, like 900 to 1,000 chicks to come back to our office, which I am so excited. The chicks will come back here, and then we will divide them up between 4 farms, and they will each get some chicks. And so we have local farms here who raise chickens for egg production, which is why we always get egg production chickens and not broilers. Broilers are basically bigger, heartier, meaty birds like your mom would roast for Christmas or Thanksgiving or Easter that's coming up, or some other holiday or big family function. So we get egg layers, and they supply eggs to local businesses, to restaurants. So when you are at a restaurant having lunch or brunch and it says fresh, local, farm raised eggs, that most likely came from one of the farms that we supply chickens to. And they also supply eggs to food banks. So we are helping boost our local food systems, literally farm to table in this case. How big will these chickens get as an adult? I don't see anything on that website about how big they would be. Let's see. Their house average egg weight is 62.1 grams. But I don't see anything that says how big our DeKalb whites will get. But from the pictures, it looks like they might be about 5 or 6 pounds. but that's not very big. If you've seen my rabbits creme brulee, they're 7 pounds. And so they won't be much bigger than that. Next question. Should we take the egg turner out Monday morning or on Sunday if we are able to get into our building? So I did answer that question as well. So you can do that Monday morning when you get to school. No reason to disrupt your weekend for that. And I answered the why do we do the project and have we ever had twins? All right, so I covered those already. And so it says, what is a good light and wattage? So I have seen a 60-watt light being used. What I have here, I'm gonna move this over here, for my candler, which you can't see because I've got my background screen on. And you see, I made my own candler, by the way, so this is super easy to do. And there are lots of different models and things that you can find on the internet to make your own egg candler. So the rabbits get quick oats. So I just grabbed a quick oats can and poked 4 holes in it and put rubber bands through there. So you see the rubber bands are actually holding the flashlight in the bottom of it. And then I cut a small hole at the top, lined it with some black felt to just make the light more intense, very close. The closer you get it to the light, it's going to give you a better and a much better image through your egg. So it does have to be fairly close to it. So I just created this nice felt pad on top to rest the egg right over top of my my flashlight. And you see, it's just a quick oats can, but you can use just about anything to make your own candler and to make it easier for you, because you know I also love to drink coffee. And so I have a coffee canister as well, and it has a black top to it. So that helps to kind of filter out some of the light, but putting, felt cover up there, and it's about the height of a flashlight that you could put in there and mount in there, or put something in the bottom to hold it stable while you candle your eggs. So there's lots of different ways you can do and engineer something interesting, but a 60-watt light will give you plenty of light, or just a regular flashlight. I've even done it with my cell phone light, the light on my cell phone. So as long as you just put it close to it. What about the light and watt for a brooding box? So with a brooding box, and I haven't done the research on this yet to find out what the options are, because I use it's a red floodlight that I get from the farm supply store that is meant to go in to the warming light for poultry. So I'm not sure what the wattage of that is. I will have to get back to you on that, and I'll post it up on the website, or I'll send it out to everyone via email. But it is a floodlight. It is painted red, so that way it's not super, super bright. And there is a period of adjustment where you have to look to see and make sure you're not putting that light too close to the chicks, because a floodlight kicks out a lot of heat, and that's what they want, the warming from that. And so if it gets too hot, you'll notice your chickens are spreading their wings out and laying flat, or they will spread out very far away from each other because they're too hot. You want to be careful about it being too hot, because they'll get pasty butt. And pasty butt is where the poop cakes up on the back of their vent hole. And if that gets caked up and blocked up, then they can't poop, and that will kill your chicks. So be careful about that. And if it's too far away and they're too cold, you'll see them clumping up together in one big baby chick mound under that light, trying to increase their body temperature and get warmer. So the reason that you have to have a warming light or some type of warming device in there is because while they're babies, they can't regulate their own body temperature. And so that light helps them to, keep, warm when they do get cold. And so the mama hen would typically spread her wings and gather her babies up underneath of her and hold them. So, and our babies will have to stay under a heat lamp that way until they get their feathers. Once they get their feathers, which happens very quickly actually, once they completely feather out, then they can regulate their own body temperature, and then we can move them outside to coops and things. So, and baby kittens and puppies are all the same way. They nestle and snuggle up underneath of their moms because they can't regulate their own body temperature either. So having a mama hen there is very important. But in this case, when you have a hatchery who is hatching out for lots of places, and hatcheries hatch out for Tractor Supply, Southern States, Ace Hardware, and all those places where you can get baby chicks from, they arrive alive. And so that's why they have to have heat lamps and things there too, so that the rest of us can go and buy our clothes. Yay. Any other question? Have you guys started thinking about names for your babies? I know that Parkway has been having a name raffle going on for a couple weeks now to see what name the first chicks will have that hatch. So yeah, I use a desk lamp with 60 watts. Yep, a desk lamp 60 watts would be good for that. So that works, Miss Barnes. Any other questions? Some fun chicken names to toss out there? You can tell your parents and your friends that I will be live streaming from my office when our eggs start to hatch. So if anybody wants to watch that process happen, I will have my webcam set up and I'm going to broadcast that across our Virginia Beach 4-H YouTube channel and our Virginia Beach Facebook page. So anybody who wants to watch that process happen, it's a long process. So you have to, tune in to see what's going on. Okay, if you have a couple that are hatching and they're kind of stumbling over and disrupting the other eggs, just keep that in mind. You might have to take them out and put them in the brooder box to leave the other eggs alone, especially if they start attacking. But I'll talk more on that next week when that happens. But you all have to be really, really good in your classrooms on, let's see, they should start hatching next Thursday. Okay, so that is March the 23rd. Before they hatch, they will start talking to each other inside of the eggs. It's called pipping. So they will pip, 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 and you can hear it, and the eggs will start rocking a little bit as they're trying to get themselves out of their eggs. But the pipping inside are the baby chicks talking to each other. So they're synchronizing their hatch. So they should all start hatching at the same time. And if you're quiet in the room, you'll hear these little peep, peep, peep happening inside of the eggs as they're talking to each other to say, hey, who's ready to come out? Because I'm ready. Let's go. Let's go. And once one hatches and comes out and is, stumbling around, drying off, and it's cool to keep them in the incubator because that warm air is going to help to dry them off. But also keep in mind that baby down from those baby chicks are going to cover the surface of your water, and it can affect your humidity inside of your incubator. So you may have to exchange some of that water out. Just keep that in mind too. But they'll be cheerleaders. And so that one who's out by himself first will go from egg to egg talking to all of the other babies inside of the eggs, encouraging them to hurry up and come out because they're lonely. So birds, they like to be together. Our baby chicks like to be together. So just keep that in mind. So as that starts to happen, listen up. So that means you guys can't be rowdy in the classroom. You got to listen so that way you can hear it happening. All right. Thank you, Providence. I appreciate that, Miss Carolino. Any other questions? We're getting close to our end time here. You are always welcome to answer or to ask any questions. You can send me an email, and I will do my best to get back to you super, super fast. All righty. Well, if there are no more questions, I'm going to let you all go so that you can get back to your class. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I will share this recording out because I am looking right at it. It is recording this time. So we are good to go. You all have a wonderful, wonderful day. And it sounds like you guys are doing a great job with your baby chicks. You are very welcome, Miss Betsy and Miss Betsy's class. Bye, Miss Carolina's class. Be good so you don't get your eggs taken away so you can see the process happen. Bye. I can't tell the name of the class. HK, hello. Bye, kids. Thanks for tuning in. Send me questions. Have a good day. Be good. Treat each other kindly.